Welcome. Sorry, I just started the intro and realized I didn't have my cup of tea. I didn't even have milk in it. And I just wanted, and I made a dash for it and I managed to get it back just in time. Evening, Alex, you there?
Oh, hello, Charlie. Yes, very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all the better for sitting down for another evening's chat with you. Welcome, everybody. I am Charlie Lambden. This is Moving Home with Charlie. And welcome especially to all my new followers and subscribers across all the different platforms. Where what we tend to do here, I tend to do sometimes on my own. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to have Alex with me, also known as Housing Stig, hence the HS on the screen there. Actually, that term, just for those of you who don't know, was coined by you, the listeners and viewers, not by me or Alex. In fact, no. I referred to you as Dr. Spock today on X, didn't I?
And you were corrected, as Spock was neither a doctor and he also had a C in his name.
Oh, yes, I did. I thought that doesn't look quite right. Wasn't he called Dr. Spock?
No, Mr. Spock. Dr. Bones, Spock. Mr. Spock. Dr. McCoy.
Okay, yes, Dr. McCoy, Mr. Spock. Yes, quite right. Some of you may notice a new filming location because it just wasn't working the other way around. The garage was too uncomfortable. I couldn't really just get into the live streams properly. And the open plan area would I never got peace and quiet. So we had a major shift around the weekend. We moved beds and sofas and desks. And now I have my own space at the expense of the kids who are now sharing a bedroom, so that I can get back into doing better quality videos. And it also means for the first time in years, I can get my drum kit up again, which is amazing. It's been years since I've been able to play it. Looking forward to getting back into that. So welcome to another Moving Market Monday. A bit like 5 Fact Friday, but it's Moving Market Monday, where 5 Fact Friday looks back at the previous 7 days. Moving Market Monday looks kind of ahead as well at what's coming, what's happening. And we had quite a busy day today because we had the Bank of England's mortgage and credit statistics out, which Alex did a huge amount of work on graphs, and they are all up on X. And I've linked to Alex's X or Twitter account below in the description for those of you who don't already follow him there, where you can go and see a lot of the graphs that he's done today on universal credit, on mortgages, and on credit, right?
Yes, credit and savings.
And the other thing we had out today was the Zoopla house price index. We've also, since Friday, had a talk of the leasehold reform being included in the King's speech, and teaser, just literally 5 minutes before we came on air, so to speak, Alex shared with me some land registry house price information that we think shows that prices are falling far faster than they are suggesting, and it's using their own raw data, and we'll do that at the end, okay? But thanks everyone for coming now. So we're going to start this evening. Do you have a preference? We start with Zoopla or Bank of England?
No, let's go Zoopla.
Okay, so Zoopla's house price index is interesting because let me just get up on the screen. Zoopla's house price index is compiled using a mysterious method, which actually is described here. The Zoopla house price index is a repeat sales-based price index. Now, repeat sales-based sounds to me like that's using data from the past.
Yeah, it's using the land registry sold. So
well, hang on. Just let me finish, because it uses sold prices from the land registry, yes. Mm-hmm. But we know that those are quite heavily lagged. But it also uses mortgage valuations, because Zoopla has relationships. So that the Home Track, the data company that Zoopla bought, which Richard Donnell heads up, before Zoopla bought it, Home Track provided housing data to two mortgage companies. So it's got relationships with lenders, and so it has early access to mortgage valuation data through those relationships. So it's saying that as well as the land registry data, they use mortgage valuation data, which we know is relatively current, but doesn't always lead to completed transactions. And data for agreed sales. And the only possible place that that can come from is the estate agency CRM systems, which Zoopla happens to own most of. So Zoopla kind of became a monopoly in estate agency CRM systems. So they've got these three things, and that is a lot of data: land registry stuff, mortgage valuation stuff. But land registry stuff is lagged. Mortgage valuations are exclude cash transactions. And agreed sales, again, even just taking the best case scenario on agreed sales, are for, even in normal markets, 30% of agreed sales fall through. So each of those has their own strength and weakness, right? The land registry is the most accurate, but also the most lagged. Mortgage valuations are arguably the most timely, but they exclude cash transactions, and also a lot of those fall through as well. So it's not necessarily precise. And agreed sales, that's pretty cool. Agreed sale price data coming, like that is like coal-face frontline data. But how the hell do you blend and combine those together?
Well, you haven't yet seen the land registry hedonic regression model, and I have the equation on my screen in front of me, and I'll share it with you later if you'd like.
Well, before we go there, I would like to discuss that definitely. But before we go, there,
this is on Zoopla.
Yeah,
the problem that you've got,
because
Charlie,
that's the
the problem you've got with any model, and you'll remember when I did the prophecy model, as soon as you get to a time of turbulence, whether that is upwards or downwards, the models stop being accurate. They lose accuracy, and that could make them underestimate or overestimate. I think you can guess which way this is going for this one. As they've got less mortgage valuation data because less people are getting mortgages, and as they've got less of the front end sales data because less people are putting through sales, depending on how the model is built, where it was used to a very steady, because the housing market was actually quite predictable in terms of number of transactions, you could have big changes within that algorithm, which wouldn't necessarily make it accurate.
Yeah. Right. So in a nutshell, you're saying that volatility or stability, instability and turbulence in the market messes with these algorithms compared to a nice, steady, fairly reliable direction of travel. Yeah. Okay. So, well, and that's borne out, isn't it? Because Zoopla's most recent, today's most recent, they're showing that year-on-year house growth is negative 1.1%. So in other words, they're saying that average house prices are now 1.1% lower than this time last year. That compares with Halifax and Nationwide saying, on average, between the two of them, it's an average of 5% negative. So there's a big difference between 1% down and 5% down. A big difference.
Sure.
Obviously, very different methodologies. But let's just have a look at the key takeaways. So I do find it cool that they compare today's figure of annual growth with the annual growth figure from a year ago, because that does sort of put it into stark contrast. 1 year ago, which is when prices had begun falling, year-on-year house price growth was still almost 10% positive, which just shows you what a lagged data point year-on-year growth is, and how it doesn't tell you what's happening to house prices. It tells you what has happened to house prices. This is pretty powerful. House prices are falling in 4 out of 5 local housing markets. So 80% of whatever Zoopla defines as local housing markets. So house prices are falling. I don't know. It doesn't specify if that's year on year or not. And actually, this next point is something that Richard has repeated a few times. He said it in his discussion with us on this channel. Strong regulation of mortgage lending has protected the market. I think he's referring to the hitherto small number of defaults and repossessions. He has repeated that a lot. He's repeated it on Twitter a lot, and so that's clearly something that he feels. And to be fair, the repossession numbers at the moment are still very low. I mean, they're in the hundreds, not the thousands per quarter. That's the most recent data. I think Q2, there was 600 residential owner-occupier repossessions, right, which is a small number. This is what I find just astonishing.
It's quite optimistic.
Okay, so I mean, if you take the difference between Zoopla's 1% and Land Registry's 5% falls currently, we could extrapolate this to say that, well, if you're saying it's going to be 2% next year, they're going to be saying 10% falls next year. I know that's totally baseless extrapolation, but that was the first thought that came to mind. It's like, the falls are 1/5 of what the other indices are calling.
Yeah.
And again, to be fair to Richard, I think what you just said is spot on. Turbulence, uncertainty, and a change of underlying direction is going to totally stuff up a complex algorithm that's using past the 3 different data sets, basically. Yeah,
and they will be, and that's the problem, is that they will be weighted. Each one of those will have a weighting within the overall result. And if your number of transactions or your number of mortgage valuations drops, unless you very carefully retweak your algorithm so that you're now waiting for the correct number of inputs, you're not going to get the right results.
I would also like to add that there is no criticism for me on this, because with the experience I've had of managing the best agent data set, anyone managing a national data set of millions of data points that are changing every single day and trying to actually interpret and extrapolate something out of it, it is not easy, I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
It is not easy. So let's just go down here. So there will be 1 million sales in 2024. I think that's, well, I don't have a strong opinion on that, but I think that could be a bit optimistic, unless there are more forced sales, because there feels to be like there's real friction in the transaction numbers and the volumes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to get worse before it gets better, I think, because there is a credit contraction, isn't there? Am I using the right terms?
Yes. Yeah.
So the availability of mortgages. I mean, I don't know whether it's the criteria that's the problem or whatever it is, but it's getting harder, not easier, to get a mortgage. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's more apparent in the commercial sector, but it's certainly holding true for residential. As we discussed a year ago, the lenders are going to start picking and choosing who they allow to borrow very carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this next. This is a very, very modest, humble. We were right. Our forecast for the housing market a year ago were more optimistic than many others. It's now looking like we called it right. With 1 million transactions and house price falls of up to 5% in 2023. Is it 1% or is it 5%? Is he so that would suggest to me that their year-on-year figure of -1%, they're expecting it to drop to -5% by December. That's how I read that.
I think he would use I said up to, so anything under 5% is a win.
Anyway, right. Okay, so let's just house price falls extend across the country. Cool. I think you and I agree, right? Richard does not seem to have any agenda other than to really find out the truth of what's happening. I don't think there's any.
I agree with you.
I don't think he's any bias he has is definitely unconscious bias.
Yes.
Which, and of course, where we and he acknowledge that we had a different view is on the economy going forward. And those of you who didn't see it, go and look for it. Just search it on my channel, Zoopla, interview with Zoopla. And it's a really good, it's an 1.5 hour long discussion. It's really good. Right, now here we are. This was interesting. Buyer demand is now 1/5 lower than this time last year. And if you remember, October fell off a cliff last year. It was just after the mini budget. And so they're saying it's 20% lower than then and 25% below the 5-year average for October. So here's the graph.
Yeah.
The black blobs are the 5-year average. The purple ones are versus last year. Buyer demand down 17% on last year. Number of sales agreed down 5%. Flow of new supply. I'm not quite sure what the flow of new supply means, but stock of homes for sale 45% up on this time last year. And for everyone who understands, just to simplify this, right? This is a supply and demand graph, and it says that demand is down and supply is up. And
I
when
don't know what
demand
that
is
means,
down,
Charlie.
prices go down. And when supply is up, prices go down. And so when both happen, prices are really going to go down. Okay, so for those of you who go, but there's not enough supply and there's too much demand. No, even Zoopla is telling you that buyer demand is down, not up, and supply is up, not down. So in the simplest supply and demand terms, it's still indicating house prices are going to fall. This is an interesting graph. 4 in 5 housing markets. Okay, so the purple line is year-on-year prices. What percentage of prices are falling, right? And it's showing here on the right that 80% of prices in areas are falling. But the pink line is prices that are falling more than 5%. The last time that basically got off zero was in the financial crisis, right? And what you'll see is that the pink line is a little bit lagged behind the purple line. But this time, it would look like the pink line is still staying resolutely on the floor at 0%. But like last year, it didn't sort of start. It suddenly did a hockey stick, wham, straight up. Now, interesting that it didn't do it there. So that just it showed that there were slight price falls across most of the country in 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah, it was before Help to Buy when wages were reducing, and
That's right.
they went down slowly, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. All house price falls are in the very low single digits, and no markets are seeing falls of more than 5%. Well, I think we've got some data from the land registry that might just not agree with that in a minute. Okay, right. So that's Zoopla's house pricing index. And by the way, guys, the link to that is below. That's the transaction graph there. Cash buyers expected to make up 30% of sales. Yeah, even cash buyer transactions are going down a bit. What have we got here? That's 2017, 22 average versus now. Okay, so buy-to-let with mortgage is dropped. First-time buyer mortgage is dropped a little less than you'd think, actually, below the 5-year average. Existing with mortgage and owner. Okay, look at that. Investors. So the percentage of purchases by cash buyers has jumped up from 20% to 32%.
Yes, but that's not because there are more cash buyers. It's because as a percentage, there's a smaller number of sales.
Thank you for reminding me. Yep, absolutely right. So, guys, that's Zoopla. Do we have any questions from anybody on the Zoopla data right now? So I'm just looking for Zoopla questions only. Anyone? Okay, let me scroll straight to the bottom. Anyone got any questions on the Zoopla data or comments? Having a quick look here. Can't see any. I'm just going to flag a couple of these to answer later as well.
I like Anthony's. House prices down 1% equals frogs say water definitely warmer. That's very good.
Yeah, exactly right. And as Kai Lin also says, thank you, Kai. Hi there. Please don't say my area without a name. Otherwise, it would be Hangar 18, Area 51. Absolutely right. Okay, let's go to the other news today, which I think you've got some information to share, haven't you, as well? But Bank of England's money lending, and I'm just going to not get too much into the weeds here. Just that here is the graph showing mortgage approvals. The pale blue line is that on screen?
Yeah.
The pale blue line is the number of mortgages approved for a new purchase, so not remortgages. The orange line is remortgages, and the purple line is other, whatever other might be. And what you can see there is that it is way down at 43,000, I think, now. And if you think that the 5-year average pre-COVID was around about 70,000 from memory, wasn't it?
Yes.
70,000 down to 40, nearly 40,000. I mean, that's a very, very large drop. And mortgage approvals is a reasonably reliable leading indicator of what's happening to house prices. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
very much so.
Now, you did. Do you have some? Actually, while we're on mortgages, there was a point I wanted to make at the beginning, which I forgot very quickly. I did a survey asking all of you, which of these has the strongest long-term correlation with house prices. Now, I did it on YouTube and on X, the same survey. Identical question, identical answers. And on YouTube, congratulations, 52% of you were correct. More than half you correct on my YouTube channel. So you are teacher's pet, definitely, because that's definitely, you're paying more attention than the guys on X who said, actually 48% said interest rates have the strongest correlation. Now, let me be quick to add that neither Alex nor me is saying that correlation equals causation. We're not saying that. We're just saying what's got the strongest correlation. Nothing more, right? Agreed?
Yeah.
Alex? Yeah. So it is wage growth. And for those of you who haven't watched it, go back and watch our live stream from last week where we explain the difference. But what it's really surprised me since then, how many people are still coming along saying, oh, well, when interest rates drop, house prices are going to shoot back up again. No. Please go look at this. Interest rates are an accelerant or a depressant. Wage growth, real inflation-adjusted wage growth, is the strongest correlation with house prices.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry, back to the Bank of England. What you actually dug deep into these figures today. What did you find of interest?
Oh, well, do you want me to share this, or do you want to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me just get this up.
Because this is important. This is really important. Yes. Okay. There we go.
Can you see that? Okay.
Yep.
So this is looking. So when Charlie says about mortgage approvals being a leading indicator of house prices, they are, but the mortgage approval values are what's really important. So the sum of money that's lent divided by the number of times or people it's lent to. And what we see is that tracks house prices very closely, normally with about a 15 to 20% gap, because that is the deposit that you put down. So it kind of makes sense. If the average deposit is X%, that the mortgage you have will be just below that. And what you find is nominally the mortgage approval value, so the amount that's approved for each property on average, has now fallen from 242,000 to 215,000. That's a drop of 11.4% down from the peak of last year. Now that would indicate that house prices are going to fall by at least that much. However, there are many people saying, no, cash buyers, people have got bigger deposits. I'm not sure how that's true for people having bigger deposits, because the cost of living has eaten most people's. Yes, the bank of mum and dad might be making a difference, but at the same time, I can't see it. So that's the nominal. But what's really interesting is if we flick back and have a look at the inflation adjusted. Now, when you inflation adjust, actually the fall is from 265,000 to 215,000. It's a 19% fall. That's a £50,000 real drop in terms of what your house, the value outside of purchasing another property, would get you. And that's beginning to be, really quite unpleasant territory.
So let's just. I've got that very graph on here, and that's the right one, isn't it? It's a slightly clearer. Yeah. So this is the value of the mortgage, not the value of the house, not the transaction value, the value of the loan amount, the average loan amount. And so that has fallen. That's basically £50,000, isn't it? When it's inflation adjusted.
Yes.
Which in percent, 19% reduction in real terms in what's been lent, and this is historical and it's continuing. And this is the other thing that I think is really worth reminding everybody: the slow burn, frog boiling, drip effect of fixed term mortgage rates coming to an end over a prolonged period of several years is really suppressing the speed of the effect of interest rates, isn't it?
Correct.
It's creating almost a false sense of security. It's like a slow motion explosion. This is how it feels like to me. It's just like, and it's only just really getting going. And just last week, I think the Bank of England, someone from the Bank of England said, we're only 20% in.
Yeah, I think that's a slight underestimate, but yeah, there's a long way to go. We're certainly not at halfway yet.
No, exactly. We're not at halfway. It's really worth everyone not understanding that. So, right, okay. So that's those two things. So mortgage approvals.
Do you want to have a look at savings and credit cards, or are we skipping all those?
No, I don't think so. I mean, have you just got a quick synopsis of that?
No. If you haven't got it there, don't worry about it.
But I mean, just a verbal synopsis of it. So credit cards.
So credit card debt is still, it's still rising at the fastest rate in the last sort of 15 years. Frightening, unfortunately, given that the rate on credit cards has gone up from about 18% to 22, 23%, depending on which stats you read. It means the debt servicing cost is vast, whereas savings are not coming down any faster than they were previously. It's still looking like the COVID excess is a great word for savings, but the excess COVID savings won't run out until November of 24. And all that shows to me is that there are a bunch of people who are relatively wealthy and well off, who are benefiting from the higher interest rates, whereas there are a bunch of poor people who are using their credit cards quite liberally at the moment. Now, Christmas has changed because it always used to be in December, and the day will still be celebrated then, but also the spending was always in December until COVID. For the last 3 years, the biggest peak in credit card spending has been in November as people moved to buying online because they couldn't go to shops with the lockdown in 2020, etc., which always has impacted retail. Now, it'll be interesting to see, and we won't see it until the end of December, whether that holds true this year and we get a big credit card bonanza in November. If so, I think those people are going to massively regret their Christmas spending decisions by next year.
Okay. I've just been looking through some questions to answer for later. But before we do, I think I now want to go to our bombshell that you have shared with me just before this call. I will just put it up on screen. Everyone ready for the bombshell? Are you ready? I feel like doing a drum roll. Sorry, I'm overexcited about my drums. But let me go to the photograph here and share this tab instead. And I will just put it up on screen and I will keep quiet and let you explain it.
Okay. I hope everyone can see those figures. Right. I've been getting progressively more irritated by the land registry house price index and what appears to be a complete divorce from reality. So what I did today is I went to the price paid piece and I simply downloaded the September 22 data, all of it for flats, terraces, semis and detached, and all of it for September 23, which is in the monthly update on the HMRC site. When you take those and then go through the average and median prices of the 4 different types of property, this is what you discover. Rather than there being a 1% fall or even a 5% fall, for average prices, comparing September 22 with September 23, flats have fallen by over 19%, terrace by over 19%, semis by 6%, detached by 14.2%. Oh no, you cry. You can't use averages. Averages are not a good measure. You should use median. Fine, we'll use median instead. Flats, 19%, terraces, 13%, semis, 1.8%. Semis have held up very well. And detached properties, 6.8%. And you say, well, hang on, what does that mean? Okay, so in total, across all the properties, on average, that's 12.8%. And median, it's 5.2. So what I would suggest is that the absolute minimum we could say prices have fallen today is 5.2. And then you go, but why? Why is this so different from what Zoopla are saying and what even the land registry themselves are saying? I mean, they build their HPI. That is because I'm just using the raw data. And they will say, our way of measuring it takes into account the square meterage of the property, the location of the property, the number of rooms of the property. There are coefficients for many different characteristics. We use a hedonic regression method, and therefore we can predict, even if that type of property hasn't sold recently, what it would be worth. And I'm not arguing with models. I love a model. What I'm saying is sometimes you can get so into your model that when circumstances change fast with the volatility, it doesn't keep up. This is the raw data. Any of you can go on the price page land registry website, download it, and double check my maths. And you will find that these are the actual price differences. This is not seasonally adjusted. This is just the price paid. And this is in nominal terms. So obviously, if you were to adjust for inflation, the drops are much bigger.
Yep.
But that is what you find. So the models that are out there, whether it's the ONS, whether it's the land registry, house price index, can I just show you? Let me just see if I've got it here. I think I've still got it here. I'll just share this if that's okay, Charlie.
Yeah, of course.
1 second. This is the land registry's.
You're not sharing. You need to share again. Yes.
This is the land registry's algorithm, or way of calculating its house price index. Doesn't look very straightforward, does it?
Do you want to? Are you able to interpret any of that, like into plain English, like even just a hint of what it's trying to say?
Yes. Hold on 1 second. In fact, we can do it right here. Can you? Oh, are you not seeing that?
No.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, so in that equation, P, you see it says log P is the price of the property, which is what you're trying to get.
Okay.
K is a constant, they don't explain.
Okay.
X indicates whether the property has a characteristic, such as being detached. If so, it takes a value of 1, except for the floor area. Beta is the coefficient associated with characteristic, and E is a statistical error term. It is the most complex. It just makes all of this very, very difficult. So they will claim, yes, but it is more accurate when you don't have data for a certain area. You use this in order to get it. Well, that I understand that's good, but we do have data, and you've got the prices paid, and when you compare them side by side, there is a fairly dramatic and obvious fall.
Yeah. So should we just put that back up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what really stands out is the 3-bedroom, semis, the semi-detached, really, really holding up. Yeah. And I suspect that could well be, and this is just purely a hypothesis, part of the downsizing. The downsizing and upsizing that's happening is converging on the 3-bed semi.
Absolutely, 100%.
People selling downsizing from detached houses to move in, and first-time buyers wanting to buy a first-time family home, which is typically a 3-bedroom semi. 3-bedroom semis are the most numerous, typically. Terraced houses, they're actually the most numerous in September 2022. But I mean, it is, it's fascinating. I mean, there's only a small count of properties so far.
For this September, yes, the data has only just been released. You've only got 6,254 records there, as opposed to the 78,000 for last September.
Yeah, but nevertheless, that is a 12% average price fall with the raw land registry data available.
Yeah, but be generous. Just only use the median. It's 5.2%, which still is. It's more in line with Nationwide and Halifax, who are looking only at the mortgage side. I mean, what can you say? There's so many ways to fudge figures.
Exactly. Right. Okay. So listen, what I want to do then is I'll leave that bombshell is there. Are you going to post that graphic on X? That image?
Yeah.
Cool. So Alex will put that up on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And the one other topic I wanted to just touch on, I haven't got much information on it, is this thing about the King's speech, including leasehold reform according to Michael Gove. Now, the one specific thing that they've said is that it will become illegal for new build detached properties to be leasehold. So they're going to say if they get this law through, detached new builds will be freehold only, and that's going to be set in stone. Number one, that seems to be the most fun. But that is a very small number of people. It's a very small segment of the overall property market. But still, it's good because that's definitely where new builders took the piss with making you telling you that you were on a leasehold in a detached house. So that's good. They're talking about capping ground rents. Now, whether capping means stopping them rising any further or actually reducing them, I don't know, but that would be good. And someone I saw said the fact that if ground rents are effectively reduced to close to zero, that will effectively be the end of the financial viability of leaseholds anyway. I don't know if that's true or not.
But Charlie,
yes,
are they doing anything about service charges? Because if you were as a
yes.
cynic,
So not enough, and there's not enough detail on this, and I haven't read the details, so I am literally very, very sketchy details I've picked up here and there. They're talking about trying to introduce. There's nothing in this King's Speech about introducing common hold, which would be the thing that would give leaseholders in blocks of flats control over the maintenance charges and maintenance decisions. That apparently is missing from this King's Speech. I could be wrong, guys. I am not. I have done very, very small.
No, we need to do some research on it.
Well, I'm going to research, and also I'm hopefully, maybe even tomorrow, going to be having a guest who is the boss of the conveyancing firm that I partner with, who, by the way, just won the ESTAS Gold Award for best conveyancing firm in the country. Nice. Don't say I don't pick them well. I pick them well. That's as voted for by customers, by the way. And the boss of that is going to be joining me on a video. We haven't locked in a time yet, where he will be sharing from a conveyancer's point of view, from the legal point of view, what they're talking about in terms of this King's Speech and legislation. However, the only piece of legislation that off the top of my head I can think that they've actually introduced was the Section 24 tax. I think I'm probably getting that wrong as well off the top of my head. The thing that meant that landlords could no longer account for their expenses of letting a property before calculating their tax, and they're now paying tax on their gross rent, which is the thing that's financially killed it. Apart from that, nothing has changed. And some of the people I've spoken to who know about leases and that kind of stuff have said it is such a complex nightmare that anything short of a petrol can and a match is going to achieve nothing. So I wouldn't get anyone's hopes up. I think this is posturing by the Tories. I think Michael Gove trying to get something in there. He had to water it down because Rishi Sunak said no to his first requirements, but now they've apparently agreed he can do this. It's going to go in the King's Speech. So something might happen. But I wouldn't be holding my breath. But we would all welcome any improvements to the leasehold situation, wouldn't we?
Yes.
Okay, guys, shall we take some questions? I have got some questions already starred and saved, but let's go into the pinned messages I've got here.
We've got a number of people asking as to why the count is so low. It's a subject we've covered lots of times. The land registry
count,
they only release 10 to 15% of the overall numbers in the first month. It takes them about 8 months to get up to 80% of the numbers. So you either want to wait a year and then go back and have a look, or you have to work with what you've got at the moment. I have looked back, and even the first month, even though it's very low numbers of sales or prices paid, it's relatively indicative of what they will be in 8 months' time. So they won't be too far out.
Okay, cool. Right, let's just have a look at some of these questions. So here we are. This is a good question from Urban Achiever on YouTube. By the way, guys, I was hoping to have a pumpkin on the desk for this evening because it's going to be. That's why we got the weird writing. Some people didn't recognize that as horror Halloween writing. That's what it's supposed to be for anyone that wasn't obvious for. Anyway, Urban Achiever says, seems the market has been more resilient than expected, but still confident of a 10 to 50% nominal fall peak to trough. and a 25-30% real terms fall by 2025. Okay, what I want to point out is this. If you take my 35% is the mid average, the overall average I am expecting after 3 years. Okay, it's a rough expectation, not a precise one. And I've said it goes from -15 to -50%. And we're roughly only 1 year in, maybe a bit more than just over a year in now to this roughly 3-year peak to trough cycle. So if you've seen 5% falls where you are, and if you've, so again, I'm talking about the prices that people are seeing in their local areas in the housing market right now. Remember, very few people are getting asking price. In fact, Property Mark, I won't say anymore, Property Mark, their own figures out yesterday said that 76% of properties are selling for below asking price. Okay, so if you look at the asking price of the properties that are actually going sold, that's the closest public available information of what properties are selling for near you. I am hearing anecdotes from one extreme of house prices are still rising in my area. That's possible. There will be some areas where that's happening. I think, was it Warrington has seen a massive influx of people from Hong Kong. There are localities where, for various reasons, house prices won't be falling yet. But they're in the minority, as per Zoopla's confirmation today. 80% of areas are falling, but some areas aren't. So those of you saying house prices are going up in my area, I'm sure they are. Tell us what area it is, though, because it'd be nice to know. Similarly, I get lots of people saying to me, oh my God, I'm seeing some really big falls. I put one up on X today, but 30%, they clearly changed agent and dropped the price from, I think, $550 down to $390 or something. And big asking price drops starting to happen as well. So a lot of people saying, not seeing any big price falls yet. Well, if I'm right, we're only seeing a third. And even in the places where prices are going to fall the most, my 50%, right? The biggest falls we'll see so far are 15, 16% in those areas. And I have heard agents saying that they've seen price falls at that level already. So in other words, looking across all of the stories and feedback that I get, I am getting confirmation that some areas are falling less than others, which is obvious, and that some areas are falling at the maximum rate I expected, and some areas are falling at the minimum rate I expected. There will be some outlying exceptions, and there'll be some extreme falls in some places in highly localized areas to do with leases and that kind of stuff, and other local things and local employment. Or, if there's a place, for example, where a large employer goes into administration or the business fails, then house prices in that area will be hit extra hard on top of the averages that are happening around the area as well. So that's a kind of bad luck event that can happen in some areas where a big employer goes under and thousands of people in a small area lose their jobs. That will seriously hit house prices in the local area. Similarly, anywhere which has a brand new employer opening up and creating thousands of jobs, and sadly there aren't enough of those, but there are some, those areas may well see prices not fall at all. So has it been more resilient than expected? No, I just don't think the time lag's caught up yet. And I mean, if what Alex has just shown us from the land registry is correct, then actually we're on track. 12% average price falls in after 1 year? Times 3? What's that, guys? Anyone? What's 12 times 3? Anyone? Hang on. Sorry, couldn't resist it. Next question. Yep, Steve Ravel makes it's an observation. The bank of mum and dad will probably have liquidity issues when their assets start falling by 20%. Those loans might dry up a tad. Yeah, exactly. I think the bank of mum and dad, a lot of people make assumptions about the BOMAD balance and what's available that's not going to be there. Alex, you saw my comment, my tweets over the weekend about that Sunday Times article about, this cost of living is really starting to hurt. Is it just me?
Yeah, it's just you. Everyone else noted it about over a year ago, but there we go.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, the better off will be the last to feel it, obviously. But it's interesting to see many from that pretty well-off segment of society started to go, ooh, ouch. And I just saw Mortgage Mike on Twitter, one of my friendly nemesis on Twitter, put up one of his clients has got an interest-only mortgage payment jumping from £1,600 a month to £3,800 a month.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris Steele.
I just quickly.
Sorry, Chris Steele says, I saw your tweets about the economy today and then read the news that there'll be 680 redundancies today in Barnsley as Safestyle UK goes into administration. Isn't Barnsley somewhere? Barnsley's already got really low house prices, but that's terrible news. Yeah. Sorry, Alex, what are you going to say?
There was somebody on your feed at the moment who was saying, oh, well, there's no reductions in Henley-on-Thames. I'm literally looking at Rightmove right now, and I'm seeing 8.7% off, 9% off, 11% off. And I'm going, just as I scroll through the listed prices and the reductions since they've gone on, there's plenty of reductions. I mean, yeah, some of the more recent ones haven't reduced. Here's one for 10.1% off. It's 7.9. I'd say more than half of the properties that are listed on Rightmove and Henley-on-Thames have got somewhere between 5 and 10% off. So I don't know what properties you're looking at. Every area I look at, that's what that's what you see.
Yeah. Let me just get through. I want to ping through as many as I can of these because there's loads of you making comments and messages here that are worth it. Bomad. Yes, Beverly, we've answered your question. Chris Steele. Okay, now this is a good question from Jimmy Davis. Do you know, if there was an award, a trophy for the person who's consistently asked the best questions for the longest time on this channel, I reckon Jimmy would be a contender for this. If wage growth is the strongest correlation with house prices, and real wages grew by around 10% year on year, would this not support lesser falls? Let me just give my initial reaction to this, Alex, and then please back it up. If real inflation adjusted wages grew by 10%, then yes,
we'd be rich.
We would all be very well off, and the housing market would show a miraculous recovery. I think what you mean is if wage growth was 10%, in other words, more than inflation, which would make real wages around about 3.5–4% positive, would this not support lesser falls? Yeah, if it was sustained, that would be the case. So, in other words, if real wage growth, in other words, actual wage increase after inflation is deducted, remained positive for a while, it would turn things around. And yes, in the last 6 months, there was a small, very, very small, wasn't there? Real wage growth was sort of 1% positive, wasn't it?
Yes, but the tax takes that away. The answer, Charlie, is it's actually not a difficult equation to work out. You work out the debt, then you look at the interest rate, and you say, how much of a real wage increase do we need in order to match that interest rate? Because if real wages are static, if they're flat at zero increase, so they increase exactly with inflation, and interest rates go up 6%, so just above where they are now, if they went up to a base of 6, then you would see probably in the region of 5 to 8% house price falls. But if real wages were to increase by only 3%, so half of the rate of interest, you'd see no fall at all. However, are we likely to continue to see real wage growth? It seems very unlikely given all the other economic issues.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Longinus on YouTube says, what happens to unsold new builds if the builder is bankrupt? The receivers will sell those properties off. They'll either get an estate agent to sell them, or they'll find another developer to buy them cheap and then sell them off. They won't. I mean, sometimes that process can take a long time, and those unsold homes can fall into a state of disrepair if it takes too long. But an administrator worth their salt who did a good job would quite quickly maximize the value of those unsold properties by just selling them on the open market for whatever they could get. That's what they would do. That's what should happen anyway. Jacek D says, if you don't remortgage, do you roll onto standard variable rate? Assuming that you mean at the end of a fixed rate, That is my understanding, yes. If you come to the end of your fixed rate and you don't do anything, the default thing, I'm not a mortgage broker, so I am just speculating and saying that I think it is the case that yes, you just roll onto the lender's standard variable rate. And that is a nightmare for a lot of people who are unable to secure a better rate because they don't qualify for a better rate. They're not seen as a good enough risk. So what happens? You end up paying a more expensive rate. Now, riddle
Absolutely.
me that, Mr. Spock. Where is the logic in that? Where is the logic?
Well, the logic is they make lots of money, so
Well, then
it's
they
fine.
increase the charge. If they deem you not worthy of this nice rate because you can't afford our nice rate, then you definitely can't afford their standard variable rate, and you're increasing the chance of pushing them into default, which is
Absolutely. But it was ever thus. If you want money from a bank, make sure you don't need it first, and they'll lend you as much as you like. It's very simple.
We have Andy, who's paid a super chat. Thank you very much. That's kind. Hi, Charlie, Alex. Question: ignoring the tax benefit, which option is safer in given circumstances and indeed long term? Buying a property as a pension fund or invest into pension funds up to 50k per annum? Can I first of all say neither myself nor Alex is a financial advisor of any kind whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And so all we can do is offer you our utterly unqualified amateur guesswork on this. But in a nutshell, buying property as a pension fund right now would not be something that I could recommend.
Not high on the list of things to do. But I see where he's coming from, because honestly, especially if what I think is going to happens in the financial markets, there's not an awful lot of good places to put money right now. In fact, you may as well just keep it as money, buy yourself a 6.2% NS&I bond, and away you go. I mean, it's just stick in a cash
because
ISA.
Pension funds. Did you say that pension funds on average have 10% exposure to commercial property?
Correct.
Oh, it's gonna hurt.
It is going to hurt.
It's gonna be ouchie, because I'll tell you what. Hey, Alex, you know the pension fund that we run. Why don't we just take all our money out of those commercial funds? Should we just take them out?
Oh no, you can't do that. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that's now closed to you. It's because of the liquidity.
I want my money back. Give me my money back.
No. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. In 2 years' time, if you just wait 2 years, then we won't charge you a penalty for taking your money out early. How's about that? You see, you'll get more money. Isn't that a good idea? So all you got to do is just wait 2 years, and then no penalty for you. Aren't you lucky now? Thank me. Thank me. I'm going to charge you 2% more.
It's so sketchy, isn't it? It's just
they're fucking dodgy bastards,
honestly,
is what they are.
Honestly, I mean, I can see why they're also behind the scenes going, "Fuck, what do we do? Fuck." They were like, if we let them all take their money out, it's gonna be worse for everyone. Let's just say no. Let's just say no. No.
Yeah, we'll shelter it, say no, and then we'll offer that mad incentive. And by the time we get there, everything will have collapsed anyway. So we'll have walked off and got onto our yachts and sailed to the Caribbean. So no issues.
I saw a cruise ship up close on the water, in the sea, in the Atlantic, called the World. It is not a tourist cruise ship. It is a residence.
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah. You can buy flats and they ferry you out to the
It is a residence. The ship is, I think, registered to the Bahamas, I think. But it is.
And it just travels around the world.
Cruises around the world, and you can live on it.
Yeah. And then supposedly, I saw the schematic, because you remember, sorry, my father worked for Lloyd's Register of Shipping for a bit, so I still keep an eye on shipping type stuff. And I looked at the flats in that place. They're incredible. I mean, you had 2,000 square foot flats. It was just really fantastic.
Here it is. Luxury residence at sea. If you think I'm making this up, this is dead. There you are. Live your journey. Residences at sea. These are not for tourists. These are not for poor people. No, you may only live here if you are extremely
very rich.
Very, very rich. So there you are. Yeah, that's what you did before breakfast. Quick bit of scuba diving. Right. Sorry, guys, for that little distraction, but I thought it was quite entertaining. Annie Anonymous asks, where geographically are the estate agents you talk to that say it's carnage at the coalface? Just wondering where they are in the country. Okay. They are scattered all over the place. I can't say that they're here and not there, and I know, Annie, you're clearly looking to buy somewhere, given the months of frustration that you've had, where house prices just are not becoming more affordable as fast as you'd like them to. But what I would say is this: the other thing is this: most of the agents I've been talking to are also saying that it's different at different levels. Below 250, one thing's happening. Between 250 and 700, another thing's happening. Above 700, something else. And what they're saying actually reflects those land registry figures. They're saying at the lower end is bad. Landlords selling up flats, no first-time buyers, there's bad. And they're saying at the higher end, all the detached stuff, everyone's selling and no one wants to buy it, and it's bad. But in the middle, it's not so bad. That's I've heard that a few times, which
Well, that supports the whole semi-detached thing, and also, as you said, the pressure from both the downsizers who still have big furniture and don't want to move into a flat, and the upsizers who want to start a family. It all adds up. Just one quick one for guys talking about premium bonds and bonds. Yes, NSNI premium bonds exist, and you may or may not win. There's no guarantee of a return, but they're quite good, as Patricia says, for high rate taxpayers. But it's not the only product NSNI do. They were, I don't know if they're still doing it, but very recently they were doing a 1-year fixed 6.2% return bond, which you can invest in. And that's why I say, if you're going to do with cash, not a financial advisor, not just do your own research, speak to someone who knows what they're talking about. But that's what I did. And in terms of whether you will still be in time for house price falls, yeah, I don't think a year is going to be too much time to tie stuff up for. Can't see prices taking off that fast in 12 months' time.
Right, I've got a question here I can answer very, very shortly. So Adam says, Charlie, could you please do a video on how to sell a house without an estate agent? I can do it right now. This is how you sell a house without an estate agent. Just don't. Okay, unless you've got a lot of time on your hands and you are happy to deal with very frustrating people, many of them, and you're happy to take the risk of people changing their minds, and you think I mean, honestly, if you know what you're doing, fine. If you are a developer or a routine seller, but if you are a first-time seller, I cannot stress this strongly enough. And if you need to sell, do not. Listen, nobody is forced to use an estate agent when they sell the house. Everybody has the choice to do it themselves. And yet, 96% of people choose of their own free will to use an estate agent. Now, why do you think that is? It is one of the most difficult, hateful jobs. I've been offered jobs as an estate agent for the 20 years I've been a supplier to them, right? In fact, I've had many, many job offers from estate agents. I just said, guys, I'm sorry, there's no amount of money that would be worth it to me to deal with the utterly emotional and irrational decision-making members of the public that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis for nothing in return. And you may, like, you can work for 6 months for a client selling their house, and the day it comes to exchange, they can go, we've changed our mind, actually. We've changed our mind. We're not going to sell. I couldn't do it. And this is why I have respect for anyone who earns a living as a estate agent, because I don't know how you do it. But for the people who do it well, you are worth your weight in gold, you guys. You really are. Duncan C makes a comment. I was concerned downsizers would hold up prices of flats, but Alex's registry calculations show that they're in fact falling fastest. I guess downsizers are holding up semis instead. Yep, Duncan, that's what it looks like. Actually, sorry, Adam, also, I did do a video on how to sell your house really quickly. Go and look at my channel. One of my earliest videos, the very first few videos I did a video going into that question. Any more questions that have arrived in the last few minutes? What do we have? Patricia, by the way, Alex is saying that the NSNI 6.2% is no longer.
Yeah, I saw that. It's very sad.
Cash is not trash right now, says Urban Achiever. Can you advise on risk? Okay, DeLuaro. Can you advise on risks of buying a property on auction? I'm mortgage dependent, and a lot of the houses I'm looking at only have dropped so far and then put on auction. I saw a statistic yesterday that I have not managed to verify that 65% of properties going into auction are not reaching their reserve. And if that is not one of the strongest, I'm sorry, I cannot verify it. And yes, bullshit and bloke in the pub plucking figures out of the air. Wherever I saw it, it caught my attention from whoever posted it. But I don't know if that's the number. But I do know, because I've seen it repeatedly, that many properties at auction are not achieving their reserve, which gives you another insight into what's really happening with house prices at the front line. But to answer your question, the risks of, I mean, if you are mortgage dependent, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't buy an auction, because you don't know what you're going to get. And I'm not sure the lender's going to be okay with you doing that, because they're going to do a survey. And I don't know. I mean, unless the lender does the survey on the property before you go and bid. I don't actually know how that works, buying with a mortgage at auction. But for anyone else buying at auction, you know, the whole reason they're at auction is they go cheaper because they aren't selling on the open market, because they've got some sort of problem.
And yes, you're going to need to do something.
You know, you're gonna have to expect major, like at least 5-figure sums to be spent on a property being sold at auction. It's like buying a car at auction. You know, you just don't know if the gearbox is going to shit itself as you drive away. There's no guarantee whatsoever. And I actually know someone almost in my immediate family who bought a house, and the mortgage lender did their survey and they bought it, moved in, and they had to have major structural works that took 3 months before they could move in.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a case of, actually it was a bit of a miracle that it hadn't collapsed. Yachek D asks, when do you expect the prices of semis to fall in London? First of all, not a lot of semis in London that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe around the outskirts, but not in central London.
No, Notting Hill, there are plenty if you've got 30 million.
I think they've already come off a few million, those ones. But the other thing is this. Whenever I get asked a question about London, I have to remind everyone that even if you go and look at Rightmove's breakdown of London boroughs, there is this spectrum of rising and falling boroughs. So there is no answer to that question. It depends on the borough and on your budget, whether you're high or low level, whether you're spending 30 million or 300 grand. I think makes a big difference. What else do we have? Mark asks, what I think will be the King's... I did talk about this earlier. You must be late to the party, Mark. Not sure what's happened in the King's speech, except for the bit where they're going to make detached houses that are new builds can only be freehold. What else do we have? Anyone else got questions I haven't answered yet? They weren't answered. The modern method of auction, by the way, guys, is where the buyer pays the fee, the seller's, the agent's fee, on top of the price of the property. Again, you've got to really know what you're doing and really be getting an absolute bargain to do that. Yeah, Gary Stewart says you can't buy at auction with a standard mortgage because you can't complete in the 28 days' time. You'd need a specialist bridging loan. Yeah. Lots of great comments here. But actually, guys, we've gone way over an hour. It's amazing.
Yeah, I need to do a runner, mate.
Well, me too. Guys, you've all been amazing. Thank you very much. Alex, don't wait. If you need to go. If you've got to go.
Goodbye, everyone.
I'll wrap up without you. Thanks, mate. Speak soon. But to everybody else, I would just like to remind you, thank you so much, all 727 of you that are watching this live on YouTube at the moment, not including those of you who are watching it live on X as well. So probably about 1,000 of you. I can't believe that's a lot of people to be watching. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful moving Market Monday for you. Let me know what you think. Would love feedback on it. Do you like this Moving Market Monday? Don't forget, we've got the interest rate decision from the Bank of England on Thursday, the 2nd of November. What are you guys expecting? Everyone's saying the markets are pricing in no change. Yeah, maybe. I think there is also a possible chance that if the underlying causes of inflation are looking really stubborn, that they may just yet put it up another 25 basis points. I think, yeah, we'll see. If you would like, so don't forget, if you're out there buying, because there are bargains to be had, and for those of you in a strong position to buy, now is a good time to be out there viewing. Remember that to improve the chances of your offer being accepted over and above other people who might be offering a similar amount, have a proof of deposit and include it in your email, your offer email. Have proof of your mortgage in principle, or whatever the closest thing you've got is. Have your conveyancers lined up in advance, because that will make you more attractive, because you can proceed more quickly than someone else that doesn't have the conveyancer lined up in advance. And say in your offer email, if my offer is accepted, I will purchase the property search pack immediately to save time and to show my commitment. Now, all of those things, mortgage brokers, conveyancer, and search pack provider, if you don't have people that you trust, I work with individual hand-picked ones. I've got 2 mortgage brokers that I work with that have been fantastic so far, and the conveyancing firm I work with has just won the annual conveyancing awards. They've won gold for the best conveyancers in the country. They're fantastic. And the search pack provider, I work with the only direct-to-consumer search pack provider. All of those you can get on my website, mhwc.co.uk. Okay, and if you'd like to consult with me, and again, apologies to those of you who've already booked a time with me and I haven't got around to it yet. But if you want to book 30 minutes or a 1-hour personal video call with me, you can also do so at my website there, mhwc.co.uk. If you want to just talk through your moving plans and see if I can help you. Otherwise, guys, thank you very, very much. Have a fantastic Halloween. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye. And don't forget, you can also hear these on audio podcast. Go to wherever you get your podcasts and search for Moving Home with Charlie. Thanks, guys. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.